Welcome Titans to another video on the Titans channel. My dear viewers, today it's time for a video that can actually be useful. For some of you, it will definitely clarify a lot and explain how Titan Quest 2 works when it comes to its basics, when it comes to attacking. So today we're going to start calculating how damage actually works in Titan Quest 2 from the ground up. It's something a bit complicated, at least for my simple mind. However, I hope I understood it to some extent, and that I'll be able to explain it to you today. We're starting with the very basics when it comes to calculating the basic attack window. So today we're focusing strictly on that section, plus attributes, because they are directly connected to damage in Titan Quest 2. That's why we're on a character that has just started the game, so that we can compare the lowest possible damage values from the simplest items, because obviously later on the game ramps up, then we have skill scaling, passive skills, auras, statuses, a lot starts happening. Equipment also heavily modifies everything, and all of that, we actually have to calculate ourselves if we want to know exactly how much damage we're dealing. Because as you may have noticed, base damage is not the damage we deal to enemies. Base damage is only the average damage of our weapon. Because when hitting enemies, we can clearly see that the numbers are different from what the game theoretically shows us. Thanks to that, we can calculate how our character actually performs against enemies and what real damage we are dealing. Why does this happen? Why does the character deal 8, 9, 17, 9 damage instead of just 8, as shown in the game? Because everything has to be calculated further. Of course, I'm still an amateur in all of this, my dear viewers. Treat this as a curiosity, an introduction to all these stats. But most importantly, base damage is the average of our weapon. So in this case, if our weapon has 8 damage, then base damage equals 8. But for example, if our weapon deals between 16 and 18 damage, then as you can see, it becomes 17. In the case of a staff with 13 to 15, it will be exactly 14. Alright, that's the first part done. Next, attack speed. A very simple thing. It's exactly what is shown on the weapon. Attack speed 1.12, 1.12. And in theory, we could already calculate our real damage by doing 17 times 1.12. That extra 0.12 gives us our damage per second, our DPS. Simple for now, of course, but remember, attack speed can be increased. Base damage can also be increased, because we can drop items that increase base damage, and this can be either base damage for a specific damage type or general base damage. And this can come from many different items. Helmets, armor, weapons, rings. Base damage is added directly here, not as a multiplier. Alright, let's move on. Now we get to base factors from fitness, resolve, and cunning, which is something we already recognize because it's simply our attribute window. So here we have fitness, cunning, and resolve. And everything lines up. We also have might, agility, and knowledge. Now, when we hover over the main attributes, we can see that agility increases light armor, medium armor, and fast weapons. But it also increases specific damage types. So in this case, fitness and cunning increase damage types. And indeed, fitness increases strike damage and pierce damage. Cunning increases lightning damage and poison damage. And resolve increases fire damage and cold damage. These are physical damage, natural damage, and thermal damage. That's how the developers designed it. And what we see here is also reflected in the attack window. So we have fitness, resolve, and cunning. And these are the multipliers from our attributes. 1.17, 1.16, 1.17. By adding points into these attributes, we increase the multiplier for those damage types. In this case, we have higher agility, which connects to fitness and cunning. And that's why we have values like 8.6 and 8.5. And as you can see, we have 1.17 and 1.17. So the base multiplier starts at around 1.16. In this case, for thermal damage, fire, and cold. Now, but if we have a weapon that deals pierce and strike damage, which are linked to fitness, we multiply that weapon by our coefficients, so by 1.17, which means about 17% more damage, because we added points into agility that increase fitness. Depending on the weapon's damage type, a different multiplier applies. For example, if we have a thunder staff, a weapon dealing lightning damage, then the relevant bonus is the natural damage bonus, meaning lightning damage in this case. Moving on slowly, but then besides the multiplier, we also have direct bonuses for specific damage types. As we know, in Titan Quest 2, we have specific bonuses for each damage type. We can drop a staff that increases lightning damage, or a ring that increases another type, and so on. The same applies to passives and status effects, which also increase these multipliers. So we take the percentage from attributes, add the percentage from items, skills, and passives, and then apply it to base damage, and also multiply by attack speed. So if you have a high percentage here, it's extremely valuable, because that percentage multiplies your base damage from your weapon, assuming you are using a weapon that benefits from that damage type. Next, we have other damage bonuses, ones that do not scale with attributes. We have spirit damage, vitality damage, and energy drain. These are special types of damage that come from items. You can find scaling for them there, but they do not scale with any attributes. Just like Vitality in Titan Quest 1 and Vitality Drain as well, they are not affected by attributes. However, they can still be increased by items, skills, passives, and auras. Next, we have the final section, critical damage. This means that our damage can be increased by a percentage. And as you may have noticed earlier, every few hits we deal double damage. That's a crit. We can also land a stronger crit, up to 300%. So in this case, if we equip a sword, that would be 3 times 8 damage. And that's before attack speed and attribute multipliers are applied, so it adds up quickly. Then we also have the global critical chance and global chance to apply status effects. These are independent of our base stats. They are simply added on top. Right now, I don't have any items that increase global crit chance or status chance, so these effects don't occur more often yet. We also have Rage, one of the mechanics. We can gain skills that increase Rage stacks. Rage works in a way that each consecutive attack becomes stronger and is multiplied by a certain percentage. We can have up to 10 stacks, and we can increase that. Each stack means more damage and more attack speed. Rage reminds me a lot of Warfare Mastery, but it's more of a base mechanic here. We also have Damage Reflection, something also known from Masteries. It reminds me of Forge Mastery, where many skills give you this kind of effect. So that's a quick overview. But there's also something interesting, and for example, our dagger has 1.56 attack speed, but here we see 1.66. That's because we have plus 6% attack speed, cast speed, and cooldown recovery. Finally, I want to talk about ailments, status effects. These are very interesting because they deal damage over time. In Titan Quest 2, almost every damage type applies a status effect. We have stagger from strike damage, bleeding from pierce, burning from fire, chilled from cold, shocked from lightning, plague from poison, and also wicked, which I'm not entirely sure about, but it might be tied to vitality or energy drain, possibly weakening the enemy. As you can see, we have power ingress, meaning no base power, but the multiplier can increase if we boost the strength of the effect, because items can increase chance to apply a status, strength of the status, and this multiplier stacks with each application up to 10 stacks. So for example, you can apply 10 stacks of bleeding, and that gets multiplied by its strength. We also have duration, and yes, these effects also add to your total damage. I'm not an expert, but I hope I managed to explain how you can start calculating your basic damage without getting lost in skills, because that's where things get really crazy. Remember, everything multiplies. And for now, I hope you understand how base damage, attributes, crits, and status effects work together. That's a solid foundation for the future. So my dear viewers, I hope this video was useful to you, and I'll see you in the next videos on the channel. Take care.